The stars shone like distant fireflies against the black canvas of space. The diplomatic station orbited Earth silently, its sleek metal surface reflecting sunlight. Inside, Commander Jack Bennett stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching through the viewport as the alien ship approached. Valaran vessel requesting emergency docking, the station's AI announced. Life support readings show signs of biological distress. Jack nodded. Grant permission and prepare the low-gravity meeting room. Alert Lieutenant Martinez and Captain Daniels. 30 years had passed since humans learned they weren't alone in the universe. 30 years of careful diplomacy, limited technology, exchanges, and the slow realization that Earth was considered dangerous by galactic standards. A death world, they called it. A planet where life evolved under harsh conditions, creating species that were naturally tougher, faster, and more aggressive than most. The Valaran ship docked with a gentle thud. Jack straightened his navy blue uniform and headed to meet their visitors. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez waited by the airlock, medical kit ready. Her dark eyes scanned the data on her tablet. Atmosphere mix is prepared to Valaran standards. Their vital signs are unstable. Unstable how? Jack asked. Elevated hormonal signatures consistent with extreme fear, she said. Something has them terrified. Captain Frank Daniels joined them, his security team maintaining a respectful distance. Should I be concerned, Commander? The Valarans are peaceful traders, Jack said. They've never shown any hostility toward Earth. Let's not make assumptions. The airlock hissed open, revealing 3 aliens. The Valarans stood nearly 7 feet tall with slender bodies covered in translucent skin that rippled with colors. Their large round eyes blinked rapidly in the station's lighting. The lead Valaran's skin pulsed with patches of dark blue and purple, colors humans had learned indicated extreme distress. Ambassador Kyle Van, Jack said, bowing slightly. Welcome to Earth Station 1. I am Commander Bennett. The alien's translator device hummed. Commander, forgive our unannounced arrival. Time is precious. Lives are ending as we speak. Jack gestured toward the meeting room. Please, this way. We can speak privately. The low-gravity chamber had been designed for non-human visitors. The Valarans moved more easily here, their long limbs floating gracefully as they settled around the table. Holograms flickered to life, displaying star charts and images that made Jack's stomach tighten. Burned worlds, destroyed stations, dead, bodies floating in space. 3 colony worlds lost, Kyle Van said, his voice trembling even through the translator. The Drekthar give no warning. They take what they want. They kill those who resist. They kill those who surrender. Jack studied the images carefully, his face showing no emotion despite the horror they displayed. Olivia gasped softly beside him. The Drekthar, Jack said. We have limited data on them. An expansionist species from the Outer Rim? Yes. For generations they remained in their home systems. Now they grow bold. They have new weapons, new ships. They seek resources. Kyle Van's skin rippled with red flashes of anger. They slaughter children while elders beg for mercy. Captain Daniels leaned forward. And the Galactic Council? Surely they don't allow this kind of aggression. A bitter sound came from the translator, something like laughter without joy. The Council debates while worlds burn. They send messages of concern. They impose economic sanctions that mean nothing to those who simply take what they need. Jack kept his voice level. And you've come to Earth because? All 3 Valarans turned to face him. Their skin now displayed a unified pattern of deep blue. Because you are Deathworlders, Kyle Van said simply. The room grew quiet. Jack exchanged glances with his officers. Please explain, he said. Your species evolved on a world of predators, of weather that kills, of diseases that hunt, of competition. Kyle Van gestured to the humans. You are stronger than you appear. Your bones hold against pressure that would shatter ours. Your minds process threat faster than any species we know. You continue fighting when injured. You feel pain but do not stop. Olivia spoke softly. Ambassador, There are other Deathworld species in the galaxy. Why come to us specifically? Because you fight with restraint, the second Valoran said. The Morgathi would burn entire systems. The Krant would consume the enemy. Humans fight to win, not to destroy. Jack nodded slowly. I see. You want our military assistance. We need it, Kyle Van said. The Drekthar approach Valara Prime. 5 billion lives, our homeworld. They will arrive in 14 of your days. Jack looked at the holographic display again. The images showed civilian centers reduced to ash, orbital, habitats torn apart, children among the dead. The Security Council will need to vote, he explained. I cannot promise military action. There are protocols. Protocols? The third Valaran finally spoke, his translator barely containing his rage. Our children die while your species debates protocols? Jack met the alien's gaze steadily. Yes, because unleashing our military is not a decision any one human can make. It's too dangerous. That's why you came to us, isn't it? Because we're dangerous. The Valaran fell silent. I will contact Earth immediately, Jack continued. I will recommend emergency consideration. But I can tell you this. Humanity protects those who cannot protect themselves. It's in our nature. What Jack didn't mention was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since first contact. Operation Sentinel Shield, a contingency plan developed for exactly this scenario. The defense of peaceful species against aggressors. The meeting ended and Jack escorted the Valorans to quarters where they could rest. Then he headed to the secure communications room. Captain Daniels followed. You think Earth will agree to this? Daniels asked. Don't you? Jack replied. Going to war against an alien empire? That's a big step. Jack activated the quantum communication link to Earth Security Command. Frank, humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. Now we have a chance to use that same capacity for violence to protect innocent lives instead of taking them. He smiled grimly. The Security Council will debate, yes, but I know what their answer will be. The quantum link established. On the screen, Admiral William Porter's face appeared. Commander Bennett. This is unexpected. Admiral, I need to speak with the full Security Council immediately. Priority Alpha. Porter's eyebrows rose. Alpha? What's happened? Jack transferred the Valaran data to the link. Sir, someone just asked the Deathworlders for help, and for once, our reputation as dangerous might be exactly what the galaxy needs. As Porter reviewed the data, his expression hardened. I'll convene the council within the hour. Sentinel Shield? Yes, sir. It's time. After ending the transmission, Jack returned to the viewport. The Valaran ship looked fragile next to the station. Somewhere out there, an enemy who had never faced humans was about to learn why Deathworlders were feared throughout the galaxy, and why Earth was the most feared of them all. The United Nations Extraterrestrial Security Council chamber in Geneva buzzed with tension. 50 representatives from Earth's nations sat around a circular table, their faces lit by the blue glow of holographic displays. Jack Bennett stood in the center, having just finished presenting the Valaran plea for help. Thank you, Commander, said President Nicole Henderson of the North American Union. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her eyes sharp as she studied the images of devastated Valaran worlds. Admiral Carter, your assessment? Admiral Susan Carter stepped forward. She wore a crisp white uniform with 4 gold stars on each shoulder. Her face showed the weathered lines of someone who had seen combat. The Drekthar outnumber the Valaran. Defense fleet 10 to 1, she explained, pointing to strategic displays hovering above the table. Their weapons technology is slightly more advanced than ours in energy projection, but their tactical thinking is predictable. Predictable how? Asked the Chinese representative, Ambassador Lin. They've never faced an adversary adapted to constant threat assessment, Carter replied. Based on the battle footage the Valarans provided, the Drekthar attack in straight formations. They don't use cover. They don't adapt when their initial strategy fails. They've never fought predators. Dr. Alan Wright, the Council's expert on alien psychology, stepped forward. He was a thin man with round glasses and nervous hands that moved as he spoke. The Drekthar evolved on a world with minimal environmental pressures and few natural predators, he explained. Their expansion is driven purely by resource acquisition, not ideology. Their entire history lacks the concept of meaningful resistance. President Henderson leaned forward. And what exactly would meaningful resistance from Earth look like? General Peter Russell, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, activated a different holographic display. A man with broad shoulders and a square jaw, he moved with military precision. Operation Sentinel Shield proposes deployment of the 1st Interstellar Marine Expeditionary Force supported by the Earth Defense Force carrier groups Intrepid and Dauntless. 3,000 personnel, 16 vessels. Ambassador Lin frowned. Such a small force against an empire that spans dozens of systems? Admiral Carter smiled thinly. Quality over quantity, Madam Ambassador. Remember, we're Deathworlders. She tapped a control, and the hologram shifted to show human soldiers in advanced combat armor. Our Marines train in environments that would kill most galactic species instantly. High gravity, extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres. Each soldier can operate independently if needed. The Drekthar rely on overwhelming numbers against enemies who don't know how to fight back. The Russian representative raised his hand. What about civilian casualties? The Valarans say the Drekthar target population centers. Jack stepped forward again. That's why speed is essential. If we wait, more civilians die. The Drekthar will reach Valara Prime in 12 days. We need to intercept them before they arrive. President Henderson looked around the chamber. We've avoided military involvement in galactic affairs for 30 years. This would change everything about our position in the interstellar community. It would, Jack agreed. But isn't this exactly why we built these ships? Why we trained these soldiers? Not to conquer, but to protect. The chamber fell silent as the representatives considered. Then General Russell spoke again. There's something else you should know. Intelligence suggests the Drekthar have been watching Earth. They've kept their distance because they fear us, but they're growing bolder. If they successfully conquer the Valaran systems, we might be next. President Henderson stood. I call for a vote. All in favor of deploying Operation Sentinel Shield to defend the Valaran Confederation against Drekthar aggression? Hands rose around the table. Not a single one remained down. The vote is unanimous, Henderson announced. General Russell, you have authorization to deploy immediately. Commander Bennett, you will serve as liaison to the Valaran government. Good luck to you all. 3 hours later, Jack stood in the massive launch bay of Earth's orbital military station. Soldiers in black uniforms moved with purpose around him, loading equipment onto transport shuttles. The EDF Intrepid and Dauntless floated in space beyond the energy shield that separated the bay from vacuum. Colonel Greg Ryan approached Jack. He was a tall man with a shaved head and eyes that missed nothing. Commander Bennett, my Marines are ready. Just waiting on final equipment load. Jack nodded. The Valaran representatives are already aboard the Intrepid. They'll guide us to the rendezvous point with their remaining fleet. My people are excited, Ryan said, his voice low. First actual combat deployment against an alien force. They've trained their whole lives for this. They understand the mission parameters? This isn't about conquest. Ryan nodded. Crystal clear. Stop the Drekthar, protect civilians, minimal casualties where possible. But make no mistake, if these aliens want to see what humans can do in combat, we'll show them. A voice announced the final boarding call. Jack and Ryan walked toward the waiting shuttle. You've seen the footage, Jack said. These Drekthar have never encountered anything like us. They think all intelligent species evolved as they did, in safe environments with minimal competition. Ryan smiled grimly. They're about to meet the apex predator of a death world. Should be educational for them. The shuttle carried them to the Intrepid, a sleek vessel nearly a kilometer long. Its black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting. No windows broke its smooth surface, only sensor arrays and weapon ports. On the bridge, Admiral Carter waited, Around her, the crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. "Commander Bennett, Colonel Ryan, welcome aboard." She gestured to the main view screen, which showed Earth growing smaller as they pulled away. "All 16 ships report ready. The Valoran representatives are in their quarters. We jump to FTL in 10 minutes. Jack looked at the tactical display, showing their planned route. "How long until we intercept the Drekthar fleet?" 3 days at maximum speed. Carter's expression was determined. "They won't know we're coming. Our stealth systems are unlike anything in known space." "And when we arrive?" Ryan asked. "We deploy directly among their formation," Carter said. "No warning, no demands for surrender. Your Marines board key command vessels and capture their leadership. We disable their weapons and engines. Quick, overwhelming force." Jack thought about the Valaran ambassador's desperation, the images of destroyed worlds. "And if they resist?" "Admiral," Carter's eyes hardened. "Then the galaxy will learn why Deathworlders are feared." The countdown reached 0. Outside, space itself seemed to bend as the 16 Earth vessels engaged their FTL drives and vanished in flashes of blue light. 3 days until first contact with the enemy. 3 days until humanity showed the stars what it meant when Deathworlders went to war. The Drekthar battle fleet moved through space in perfect formation. 20 large warships surrounded by 40 smaller vessels, all painted in the same pale green color. They traveled in straight lines, their weapons ready, their sensors scanning. Ahead. On their current path, they would reach Valara Prime in just 9 days. They never detected the human ships until it was too late. In a flash of blue light, the EDF Intrepid appeared directly in the middle of the Drekthar formation. 5 more human vessels emerged seconds later, their black hulls seeming to swallow the starlight. No warnings were transmitted. No demands were made. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Commander Lisa Warren watched her tactical display with the calm focus of a predator. Her brown hair was cut short, her uniform free of wrinkles despite 3 days in FTL. "All ships in position," she reported. "Drekthar vessels are breaking formation in confusion. They're trying to establish communication with each other." Admiral Carter nodded. "Begin electronic warfare. Jam their communications. Colonel Ryan, your Marines are greenlit." In the deployment bay, Colonel Greg Ryan stood in front of 300 Marines in powered assault armor. The black suits made them look more machine than human, with helmets that completely covered their faces and showed only a red sensor band where eyes would be. "Weapons free. Non-lethal rounds first," Ryan ordered. "Remember, these aren't warriors, like us. They've never experienced real combat stress. The psychological advantage is ours." He climbed into his own armor, feeling the familiar embrace of the powered suit as it closed around him. The heads-up display came to life, showing enemy ship positions and team assignments. "First wave, deploy!" Ryan shouted. 30 boarding pods shot out from the Intrepid, each carrying a team of Marines. The small, arrow-shaped vessels moved too fast for the Drekthar defenses to track. They crashed through the hulls of 6 enemy ships, deploying their human cargo inside. Ryan's pod hit the command vessel with a jolt. The front opened, and he led his team into an alien corridor. The air smelled strange, but their armor protected them completely. "Move fast, stay tight," Ryan ordered through the comm. The first Drekthar soldiers they encountered stood nearly 8 feet tall. Their bodies were thin but strong, covered in plate-like armor. They carried energy weapons that glowed green. When they saw the humans, they raised their weapons and fired. Energy blast hit Ryan's armor and dissipated harmlessly. The humans moved forward without slowing. The aliens fired again, backing away in visible confusion when their weapons had no effect. Ryan raised his own weapon and fired. A sonic pulse hit the aliens, calibrated to Drekthar physiology. They dropped to the floor, conscious but unable to move as their nervous systems temporarily shut down. "Pathetic," muttered Sergeant Eric Wilson, one of Ryan's team. "They don't even have proper combat stances. Look at how they bunched together." "They've never needed to fight," Ryan replied. "They've only attacked species that couldn't fight back." The Marines moved deeper into the ship. More Drekthar appeared, and each time the result was the same. The aliens never changed tactics, never took cover, never tried to flank the humans. They simply fired directly, standing in the open, becoming increasingly panicked when their weapons proved ineffective against the human armor. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Admiral Carter received reports from all teams. All primary targets secured, she announced. Minimal resistance. No casualties on either side. Commander Warren looked surprised. None? Not even among the Drekthar? Colonel Ryan's teams used sonic disruptors, Carter explained. The Drekthar biology makes them especially vulnerable. They're immobilized but unharmed. Jack Bennett stood nearby, watching the tactical display with Ambassador Kyle Van at his side. The Valoran's skin rippled with colors of amazement. Your warriors, they aren't killing? Kyle Van asked, his translator struggling with his tone of disbelief. Not unless absolutely necessary, Jack replied. The goal is to stop the attack on your people, not to slaughter theirs. Inside the Drekthar command vessel, Ryan's team reached the bridge. The door was sealed, but Corporal Kate Miller placed a small device on the lock. It emitted a pulse that caused the door to slide open. Inside, 7 tall Drekthar stood around a central command station. One wore elaborate armor with gold designs, the commander, Ryan guessed. When the humans entered, the aliens froze in what looked like shock. Who? What are you? The Drekthar commander asked, his words translated by the human systems. Colonel Greg Ryan, Earth Defense Force. Ryan replied calmly, his voice amplified through his helmet speakers. Your fleet is now under our control, your weapons are disabled, your engines are shut down. The Drekthar commander's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. His skin, a pale blue color, seemed to grow even lighter. Impossible, he said. We have 60 ships. Our scans detected only 6 of yours. Quality over quantity, Ryan replied, using Admiral Carter's words. You're fighting Deathworlders now. The alien seemed confused. Deathworlders? Species evolved on worlds that would kill you in minutes, Sergeant Wilson explained, his voice showing his contempt. Worlds with predators, poison, extreme weather, and competition for resources. Ryan stepped closer to the Drekthar commander. You've spent your existence attacking species who cannot defend themselves. That ends today. Master Sergeant Tim Cooper, monitoring communications from the Drekthar ship system, spoke up. Colonel, they're sending distress calls to their homeworld, asking for reinforcements. They're saying we're... He paused. They're saying we're monsters, that we appeared out of nowhere and moved too fast to see. Ryan nodded inside his helmet. Good, let them spread the word. Within 6 hours, the entire Drekthar battle fleet had surrendered. Human Marines controlled every ship. The alien crews were confined to quarters, unharmed but thoroughly defeated. On the Intrepid, Admiral Carter held a meeting with Jack, the Marine commanders, and Ambassador Kyle Van. Phase 1 complete, Carter said. We've prevented the attack on Valara Prime, now we move to Phase 2. Which is? Kyle Van asked. Jack answered. Ensuring the Drekthar never threaten another peaceful species again. Colonel Ryan removed his helmet, revealing a face covered in sweat but wearing a satisfied expression. My teams report the same thing across all vessels, he said. The Drekthar genuinely don't understand what happened. They've never encountered an enemy that fought back effectively. They have no concept of tactics, no understanding of combat psychology. What do we do with the prisoners? Commander Warren asked. We send most of them home, Admiral Carter replied. With a message. And that message is? Kyle Van's translator conveyed his confusion. Admiral Carter's expression was firm but not cruel. That humanity protects those who cannot protect themselves. That attacking peaceful species has consequences, and that if they force us to return, she paused, next time, we won't be so merciful. The Valaran ambassador's skin changed to a deep purple color. You've done in hours what we thought impossible, saved billions of lives without taking any. My people will never forget this debt. Jack placed a hand gently on the alien's shoulder. There is no debt, Ambassador. This is what allies do. As the meeting ended, Jack gazed out a viewport at the captured Drekthar vessels. The first interstellar conflict involving humans had ended in complete victory without a single death. But he knew this was just the beginning. The real work of ensuring lasting peace was about to start, and the galaxy was watching. 2 weeks after the capture of the Drekthar battle fleet, human and Valeran representatives gathered aboard the Intrepid. The meeting room had been adjusted to accommodate both species comfortably. Holograms floated above the central table, showing maps of Drekthar territory and defensive positions. Major Kelly Anderson stood before the group. She was tall with blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, and she moved with the quick, precise motions of someone used to action rather than meetings. "They believe we're monsters," she explained, pointing to intercepted Drekthar communications, displayed in the holograms. "Their leadership is in complete panic. They've never encountered a species that can outthink them tactically." The Valeran representatives, 5 in total, watched with skin that shifted between colors of amazement and satisfaction. Ambassador Kyle Vance spoke for the group. "The Drekthar fleet that attacked our colony worlds has withdrawn to their borders. Already, 2 million of our people who fled have been able to return home." General Russell nodded. "Good. But a temporary retreat isn't enough. We need to make sure they never try this again." The hologram shifted to show Phase 2 of Operation Sentinel Shield. Jack Bennett studied it carefully. The plan was unlike anything he had expected when this mission began. "We're not going to attack their homeworlds?" one of the Valerans asked, clearly surprised. "No," Admiral Carter replied firmly. "We're not here to occupy their territory or destroy their civilization. We're going to demonstrate that attacking peaceful species has consequences, then establish a permanent defensive perimeter." Major Anderson pointed to specific locations on the map. "Small special forces teams will infiltrate key military installations throughout Drekthar territory simultaneously: manufacturing centers, command facilities, supply depots." "How many teams?" Jack asked. 24, Colonel Ryan answered. 4 soldiers per team." Ambassador Kyle Van's skin flickered with disbelief. "Less than 100 humans against an empire?" Ryan smiled slightly. "That's all we need." 48 hours later, Lieutenant Steve Mitchell led his 4-person squad through a ventilation shaft in the largest Drekthar communications hub. The facility, located on their 3rd moon, connected military commands across 12 systems. His team moved silently, their adaptive camouflage rendering them nearly invisible. "Their security is primitive," whispered Corporal Ben Lewis, the team's tech specialist. "No motion sensors, no heat detection, just cameras and guards." "They've never needed anything more," Mitchell replied quietly. "Their entire society is built on hierarchy and expected compliance. They have no concept of infiltration or sabotage." The team reached a junction in the ventilation system. Below them, through a grate, they could see Drekthar communications operators at their stations. The aliens worked in perfect rows, each facing forward, none talking to each other. "Ready for Phase 1, Mitchell said into his comm. Similar teams, across Drekthar space acknowledged, all in position at their targets. At precisely the same moment, all 24 teams activated their devices. Across 12 star systems, Drekthar military communications went dark. Power systems failed. Computer networks crashed. Mitchell's team dropped from the ventilation shaft into the communications center. The Drekthar operators spun around, their 4 eyes widening at the sight of the camouflaged humans appearing seemingly from nowhere. "Don't move," Mitchell ordered, his translator converting his words to the Drekthar language. "Your facility is now under Earth control." To his surprise, the aliens immediately raised their hands in surrender. One stepped forward cautiously. "You are the Deathworlders," the Drekthar said, "the shadow warriors who captured our battle fleet." Mitchell nodded. "We are. We surrender," the alien said simply. "We have heard what happened to our fleet. We know resistance is pointless." Across all 12 systems, the pattern repeated. Human forces struck with precise, overwhelming force against military targets while scrupulously avoiding civilian casualties. Manufacturing centers lost power. Command facilities found their systems compromised. Supply chains collapsed without a shot fired. 3 days into the operation, General Russell received reports from all teams on the Intrepid. "Complete success," he told Admiral Carter and Jack. Every primary target secured. Minimal resistance. Most Drekthar military personnel surrendered immediately upon seeing our teams. Jack studied the reports. They're terrified of us. Good, Admiral Carter said. Fear can be more effective than destruction. We've demonstrated we could dismantle their entire civilization if we wanted to. And now? Jack asked. Now we offer terms. The Drekthar High Command, 7 senior officials who govern their species, arrived on the neutral space station that orbited Valara Prime. They walked with heads bowed, their usual confidence completely gone. They wore simple garments instead of their elaborate military uniforms. In the meeting chamber they faced Admiral Carter, General Russell, Jack Bennett, and the Valaran leadership. No weapons were present, but human marines stood at attention along the walls. The lead Drekthar, Supreme Commander Zexator, spoke first. You have defeated us utterly, he said through a translator. In 3 weeks, you have done what no species has ever done. You have shown us our weakness. Admiral Carter's expression remained neutral. We've shown you the consequences of attacking peaceful species. What are your terms? Zexator asked. Will you occupy our worlds? Take our resources, as we took from others? No, General Russell replied. Our terms are simple. First, you will withdraw completely from all Valaran territory. Second, you will pay reparations for the damage caused. Third, you will reduce your military forces by 80% and allow monitoring stations at your borders. The Drekthar officials looked at each other in confusion. Finally, Zextor spoke again. You do not want our territory, our technology, our people as slaves? Jack stepped forward. Humans don't conquer for the sake of conquest. We don't enslave other species. We fought to stop you from harming others, not to destroy you. The Drekthar seemed unable to process this concept. One of the other officials spoke. If our positions were reversed, we would show no such mercy. That, Admiral Carter said firmly, is why you lost. After hours of discussion, the Drekthar accepted all terms. The agreement, which would come to be known as the Valara Accords, established new boundaries and rules for interstellar conduct. Human monitoring stations would be placed at key points in space to ensure compliance. As the Drekthar officials departed, Jack stood with Ambassador Kyle Van watching their ship leave. We did not expect this outcome, Kyle Van admitted, his skin glowing with a peaceful blue color. We thought you would destroy them completely. Jack shook his head. That's not our way. Humanity learned long ago that true victory isn't measured by how much you destroy, but by what you build afterward. Across Valaran space, refugees began returning to their homes. Reconstruction efforts started on damaged colonies. And word spread throughout the galaxy about the species from a distant death world who had systematically dismantled a militaristic empire without genocide. The message was clear. Earth was watching, and Earth would protect those who could not protect themselves.